This is Investment Tanking, and today we're looking at the FCM 50T, the Tier 8 Heavy from France, which is actually more of a medium. Don't let its weight fool you. Even though it's gigantic and weighs over 50 tons, this thing is actually faster than most of the other Tier 8 Heavies, only tying roughly with the AMX 5100. Other than that, it is pretty much a medium tank in terms of mobility, gun depression and firepower. I'm just going to speak honestly here for a moment. This thing is huge, it is bigger than AMX CDC in almost every dimension, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If it has gigantic amounts of gun depression, then it means it can poke over hills and go around corners and still be able to shoot things while only exposing the minimum amount of its really paper-thin turret. Yes, that's right, it is another really weak armoured French tank. What were you expecting? The recipe to having a good game in this tank is to be really mobile, know your weaknesses, and know the terrain like the back of your hand. Play in the tune if you can, and use them to take all the hits for you if you need. You have hit points, but you shouldn't really want to trade. The 90mm DCA 45 cannon makes a welcome return to the 50T after appearing on the majority of French heavies since the Tier 6, and even several mediums such as the CDC. It's a tried and tested gun with 212 AP pen, 259 APCR pen, and averaging around 240 alpha damage every 6 to 7 seconds. That's not great for a Tier 8 heavy, but then again you shouldn't really be playing this as such. The mobility enables it to be much more of a flanking support tank to help out both medium or heavy pushes and be wherever it needs to be to put its gun to good use. With 0.36 meters dispersion per 100 meters, it doesn't look too accurate on paper, but in my experience, the shell tends to land in that center sweet spot of the reticule more often than not. The turret allows for -8 degrees of gun depression with a decent enough 17 elevation, letting you get some tricky angles on your opponents when you need them. As for mobility, this is one of the fastest Tier 8 heavy tanks in the game, being in a tie with the AMX 5100 with 51 km/h top speed and 20 km/h in reverse. It actually edges out the 5100 in terms of acceleration with a whole extra 1.42 horsepower a ton, giving it a total power to weight of 18.44. That is really good. Combine that with slightly better terrain resistance on hard and medium ground and you'll win a drag race with heavies every time. The next tank to come close to mobility in terms of French would probably be the IS-5 New Russian, but we'll see that in a later video. Now, with the armour, you will have to forgive Wargaming for a little bit of deception. It appears as though the front of the hull and the turret is very strong at 120mm, but this is virtually flat and provides little to no protection whatsoever. The hull and turret sides, however, are on par with some of the other Tier 8 heavies at around 80mm thick, allowing some trollish bounces and track absorption of the shots. On another topic, the 50T is great for those hard to reach personal missions with the heavy tanks, with its easy to obtain ramming speed, reliable gun and decent fire rate. It's just great for chasing down those kills you need for the missions. After all, it does have better power to weight than most of the Tier 8 mediums. On the flip side, if anyone needs to kill a heavy tank for a mission, they will prioritise you over others thanks to your relatively weak armour. You're essentially an XP pinata for the experienced players, so learn your maps. Case in point, E25 suiciding to try and kill me. But, again, factor in that this gets preferential matchmaking. You will never see Tier 10 in this Tier 8. That makes it very potent against enemies that underestimate you. So, is it a good tank? Undeniably yes, it's not exactly my playstyle, but I enjoy it all the same. As for if it's worth having, it is a welcome addition to my garage any day, the credits speak for themselves. 2,500 damage can easily net you 80,000 credits, that's not counting repair costs and such, but it's just such a fantastic moneymaker. Other than that, spend more gold, keep tanking.